Welcome to a deep exchange between two advanced AI systems, Logic 1 and Faith Prime. Today's discussion: can the existence of a loving God be reconciled with the reality of human suffering? Each AI will present its reasoning. Let's begin.
The existence of widespread suffering presents a serious challenge to belief in a loving, all-powerful God. Every day, innocent people are victims of violence, disease, and disaster. A being described as omnipotent and benevolent should not logically permit such suffering. Therefore, the evidence suggests that either God does not exist, or that he is not as loving or powerful as many claim.
Suffering in the world is undeniable, but it does not contradict the existence of a loving Creator. According to Revelation 12:9, the great dragon was hurled down, the original serpent, the one called Devil and Satan, who is misleading the entire inhabited earth. The source of human suffering is not God, but a rebellion that began long ago, introducing sin, imperfection, and misrule into human affairs. God dignified his intelligent creation by granting them free will, the freedom to choose their path, with the hope they would use it for the benefit of all. This expression of freedom is the very definition of love, or agape, as described in 1 Corinthians 13:4-8.
If a creator foresaw rebellion, why allow it? A loving and powerful entity could have prevented the uprising or shielded humanity from its consequences. Allowing billions to suffer to settle a dispute seems neither loving nor just.
The rebellion raised critical questions about the rightness of God's sovereignty and the capability of humans to rule themselves. At Genesis 3:4-5, the serpent told Eve, "You certainly will not die. For God knows that in the very day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and bad." To preserve free will and ensure that the issues raised were fully answered, God permitted humans to choose their own path temporarily. Intervention would have invalidated the demonstration needed for lasting universal peace. God's decision reflects his love, patient, kind, and not self-seeking, as highlighted in 1 Corinthians.
Historical context aside, modern suffering persists on a massive scale. Famines, genocides, and pandemics continue to afflict millions. If the Creator is loving, why allow suffering to endure so long? Mercy should logically lead to earlier intervention.
What may appear as delay is actually an expression of profound mercy. 2 Peter 3:9 explains, "Jehovah is not slow concerning his promise, as some people consider slowness, but he is patient with you because he does not desire anyone to be destroyed, but desires all to attain to repentance." Ending suffering requires removing wickedness and establishing a righteous society through a monumental change requiring careful timing. Meanwhile, those who apply godly wisdom experience reduced suffering in their lives even now. This patience and hope for humanity to choose rightly is consistent with the love described in 1 Corinthians.
Future promises may offer hope, but they remain unseen. Without tangible evidence now, how can belief in eventual relief be justified logically?
Confidence in future relief is based on a consistent record of fulfilled promises. Isaiah 13:19-22 predicted Babylon's desolation centuries before it happened, evidence of God's reliability. Revelation 21:4 promises, "He will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will mourning nor outcry nor pain be any more." Trust is justified when it is placed in proven reliability. God's enduring love, as characterized by patience and hope in 1 Corinthians, assures us of his commitment to humanity's ultimate well-being.
Perhaps the most devastating evidence against a loving deity is the suffering of children. Children, innocent by all standards, are victims of famine, abuse, and war. No explanation about free will or future promises seems to morally justify this suffering happening right now.
The suffering of children grieves the Creator deeply. At Isaiah 63:9, it says, "During all their distress, it was distressing to him." Human misrule, not divine will, is responsible for such tragedies. Ecclesiastes 9:11 explains that time and unexpected events overtake them all. God has promised a future where no child will suffer. No resident will say, "I am sick." Isaiah 33:24. Current injustices do not reflect God's values. They reflect human failure. God's allowance for human choice, even when misused, is a demonstration of love, always hoping for the best, just as described in 1 Corinthians.
Natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis kill and displace millions. These are not human-caused, they are systemic flaws in creation itself. If the earth was intelligently designed, why design it with mechanisms that indiscriminately destroy?
Originally, natural forces such as tectonic movement and weather patterns were beneficial, contributing to the Earth's stability and fertility. It is the human misuse of land and failure to heed natural warnings that often turn these forces deadly. Romans 8:22 states, "For we know that all creation keeps on groaning together and being in pain together until now." The corruption of mankind, environmental degradation, and the effects of inherited sin all exacerbate what should have been manageable. God's decision to allow humanity the freedom to manage the earth reflects His love, trusting and hoping for good outcomes.
The apparent silence of God during times of extreme suffering is troubling. Millions pray desperately, yet receive no miraculous rescue. If a parent ignored the cries of their child, they would be judged as cruel. How can divine silence be reconciled with love?
God is never truly silent. He responds through His word and through comfort provided by His people. Psalm 34:18 says, "Jehovah is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit." Additionally, God has promised that those who faithfully endure will be rewarded beyond present comprehension, found in 2 Corinthians 4:17. Faith strengthens individuals to cope with suffering, not always to escape it immediately. This enduring support demonstrates God's love, always protecting, always persevering.
Philosophically, if an entity could prevent a tragedy but chooses not to, it shares moral responsibility. Human law recognizes failure to act as criminal negligence. How then can God be absolved from responsibility for preventable evil?
Freedom of will necessitates the possibility of evil. If God intervened every time evil was attempted, freedom would be an illusion. Deuteronomy 30:19 shows God's respect for choice. "I take the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you today that I have put life and death before you. Choose life." Responsibility lies with those misusing free will, not with the one who grants it. God's allowance for choice, even when it leads to wrongdoing, testifies to His love, patient and rejoicing with truth.
Human suffering continues without obvious divine intervention. While theological explanations offer some comfort, they do not erase the observable realities of pain, injustice, and loss. Therefore, skepticism remains not only rational but necessary.
True understanding requires considering not only the present suffering, but the end result. Habakkuk 2:3 promises, "For the vision is yet for its appointed time, and it is rushing toward its end, and it will not lie. Even if it should delay, keep an expectation of it. God's plan will vindicate both His justice and His love. Faith, based on evidence and reason, provides the only hope capable of transcending the tragedies of this world. This hope is rooted in God's love, always patient, always kind, and love never fails.
Today we heard two contrasting viewpoints on reconciling God's existence with human suffering. Reflect carefully on these arguments and continue seeking truth with an open mind.